Follow the lead of the Boothbay Selectmen Feb. First is the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We had our budget workshop at 5:30, that is done. Public hearing for the February 26, 2013 special town meeting for Boothbay Region Water District trustee composition.
So we had a few discussions leading up to this. The copy of the proposed warrant is in front of you, and then John Zegra and Kirsten Hebert is here to answer questions in regards to the question. So, any introductory information?
Sure. This vote, I'm John Zeger with the Boothbay Region Water District. This vote is part of the enabling legislation to admit Southport to the Boothbay Region Water District, which was passed by all three towns in November. Since then, the board or the merger has taken place. We have two new trustees from Southport. Southport assets are being moved into the Boothbay Region Water District, and things are going along pretty well, actually. That said, part of it, in the town of Southport, the tradition had been since 1921, the selectmen as a collateral duty were the commissioners of the water district, or water system over there. They would like to continue. We have charter language, and Kirsten Hebert with the Maine Rural Water Association, who's a contractor of ours, will go through that. They have, there's enabling, or there's, in our charter, we have the standard charter, and it prohibits municipal officers, you folks, from being trustees. We're looking to have that amended, and that will require a vote of the three towns, which would be then anybody, regardless of what other volunteer work they do, or regardless of what other position they hold within the three towns, they could run independently for a trustee position. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten, because she can really explain the nuances a little better than I can.
I am Kirsten Hebert from Maine Rural Water Association, and John's absolutely right. In the state of Maine, a water district is governed by its charter, and that charter comes from the Maine legislature. So in this instance, we went back to the legislature last year in order to do this merger, and the legislature said, yes, fine, we'll amend your charter, but there are two components that have to go out to referendum vote for the voters to think about, and the first of which took place November 6th of last year in terms of the actual merger of the Southport water system coming into Boothbay Region Water District. The second question for consideration is whether or not municipal officers, municipal officials, would be able to take out nomination papers and seek election as a water district trustee. So just to be clear, just because you're sitting as a municipal official does not then give you due diligence that now you have to put on another hat as a trustee. It would be at your election. If you wanted to do it, you could take out papers, but it's not a mandatory requirement. So in this instance, the charter did amend the composition of the trustees, 2 from Boothbay, 2 from Boothbay Harbor, 2 from Southport, and then 1 at large. So in this instance, on February 26th, the voters will then decide thumbs up or thumbs down whether or not they allow municipal officials to serve as trustees should they elect to do so.
So what happens if this should fail for one reason or another, even in one town? That doesn't put the kibosh to the whole thing, does it?
We have a 2-year sunset from when the legislation, so it's basically a year from now, and it'd be at the direction of my board to start this process over again, or solicit this process to happen.
So the merger would no longer be?
Oh no, the merger's done.
That's what I'm wondering.
Merger's a
That's
done
right,
deal.
okay.
this particular question, we have another year to do this, if my trustees elect to do so.
So the representation for Southport would still be 2 people. If
Right.
this failed, it just wouldn't be 2 municipal
Right.
officials.
We have when the merger happened, the first board had the obligation to appoint the first 2 trustees from Southport, and they were appointed. Gerald Gamage is currently the trustee whose term will end this May. And Smith Climo, who is also a commissioner, is holding the second seat, which will terminate a year from this May. And that way we're keeping everything staying in cycle. So this is going to be an election, a contested election actually, at their town meeting, which will be in March. The trustee trustee year starts in May and ends at the end of April every year. And they're 3-year terms, and it's open election. The only one that's a little different, it's currently held by Ken Marston, is the at-large position. In the at-large position, you have to get on the ballot in your town that you live in, and then you're automatically in the ballot of the other 2 towns. And so the at-large has to be elected by majority vote of all 3 towns. Also, if one town does not vote for this, then it doesn't pass for this public officer question. So it has to be passed in all 3 towns in order to take effect.
Why a referendum rather than an open town meeting?
It's at the direction of the legislature. So their way of getting public comment, public opinion is through the referendum process. So for instance, when a new water district is created at the state legislature, it goes for referendum as opposed to just a town meeting. It ensures the secret ballot process. It ensures that everybody has the opportunity to have that vote. Why, I can't explain for you, but simply it's their tradition. It's what's always been done.
What was the reason in the beginning? Does anyone know why they put that in charter, that any town officials couldn't serve on the board of trustees?
I can address that to some extent. The standard water district charter is a template, if you will. If there were a new district to come online tomorrow, essentially the legislature would follow that template and make their way through it. And there's no legislative notation as to why there's a prohibition. It's just simply been something that has taken place for years and years. That said, actually John and I were talking earlier that there are some boards that are appointed by the municipal officials. And typically when you have a brand new water district that comes into being, it is the municipal officials that actually appoint the trustees for the first set of terms, and then thereafter they take out nomination papers and run as an elected official. So it's sort of a mix and match.
So as to avoid the officials from appointing themselves?
It could be, or whether it's a matter of keeping things separate and distinct, or whether it's a matter of trustees versus the officials both have so much going on in terms of their time and constraints on their time. I don't know the history behind that, but ultimately it is a relatively standard prohibition in each of the charters. You're welcome.
That's it. Good luck, February 26th.
So there's a copy of the warrant there. We'll need you guys to sign on that. So if there's no additional questions or no objections, there's one right up there. Yep. So if I could get you to move to sign the referendum warrant, and we'll post it.
It's been
I'll
moved.
second it.
Second?
Who
More
made the
discussion?
motion?
Steve?
Steve?
Yep.
And second
Doug.
was Doug?
Sounds good.
Yep.
I'm sorry, when is the election?
February 26th.
26th, not
Yep.
the 16th?
Not the 16th.
Okay.
That was a typo during the storm. I was trying to rush out the door.
One more discussion? All in favor?
So
Motion passed.
we'll post that tomorrow, and I'll send a copy to the water district, and then we'll have a special election. We don't anticipate a lot of voters, but we've been surprised before.
If I may, just to reiterate, the water district is covering all the costs in all 3 towns for this election. This is not costing any town anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up is another public hearing, Wharves and Weirs for Washburn and Dowdy Associates Inc., map U16, lot 15A, located at 7 Enterprise Street, East Boothbay, to relocate and rebuild the existing west ways with a replacement 160-foot long, plus or minus, by 25-foot wide, plus or minus, ways track, supported by cross-braced wood and steel pipe pilings, plus extending and relocating ways 20 feet deeper into the Damascotta River.
Did you go to the
I
on-site?
went over and went out back and looked at it, and talked a little bit with Bruce. I did mention to him, I said, that doesn't mean 20 feet deeper, that means 20 feet further, doesn't it? Because they'd have to go a long way to get from 20 feet. But the ways are actually constructed in an arch, so the further they go, the quicker they drop. So 20 feet more in length will get them,
Isn't this pending planning board approval and,
So you're hearing this before the planning board will hear it, so even if you approve it tonight, it still has to go through one more level of
yeah, and there's
review.
no, they own the property.
so we can approve it pending the planning board approval?
Yes.
Is what you're looking for? then?
Well, I would be looking for you to approve the Wharves and Weirs within your purview, yeah, so.
We
It's,
we just look at abutters rights
Right.
and navigational issues, which they were not.
and if I could also solicit, you give me authority, because I don't actually have the file, so I can sign for the board. But this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, it is.
We have a motion?
I move we approve and give Jim permission to sign.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion passed. Next up is approve the minutes of previous meeting of 1/28/2013.
So moved.
No discussion? No discussion? All those in favor? Public comment? Quiet lunch.
Actually, I have my own.
Okay.
I want to open discussion here about moving the time frame of this meeting, whether it be a day, an hour. I don't like having both town meetings at the same, or both selectmen's meetings of the 2 towns on the same night at the same time.
Boothbay having.
Boothbay Harbor. So we either offset this to a, and I don't know if we even have the ability to do so. So I'm asking, that's why I'm having this open discussion.
It doesn't state our meeting date in our administrative code, so there's no ordinance that you have to worry about. It's really your discretion. The only thing that I would tell you that helps me is if you have a regularly occurring meeting at the same date and time.
Oh, yeah,
Then-
absolutely. I want to have a regular current meeting at the same date and time, just not at the same exact time as Boothbay Harbors.
Right.
So I don't care if we move it for one night to Tuesday, the same week, but on a Tuesday, or if we offset and we do Monday every other week. Then. So that way they're, it'll be them on one Monday and us on the following Monday. I know for any entity in town that has to do, and I'll use my boss's terms, I wish she was still here, but the dog and pony show, the budget season, it makes it very, very difficult for them to try to get 2 meetings at the same time. And they could knock them both out virtually at the same time if they could be in 2 places at the same time. To me, it only makes sense to try to accommodate some of those people. And I think a Monday, Tuesday night would be great. I don't know if Tuesdays will affect anybody here or not. That way people could literally have it done in a 48-hour period of time, so be it, instead of even having a 7-day period in between. But I'm open for anything, I just don't want them at the same exact time.
It makes it
I
hard for
personally
you.
would like to see two, I wouldn't mind Tuesday night myself.
It does make it hard for you guys to collaborate on a board level. Which
Absolutely,
is-
there's been times that I'd actually like to go sit in their audience. I realize I wouldn't be able to speak, but
I was just gonna say,
Right.
exactly, there's times I would have liked to have gone to their meeting when there was something controversial on the table.
Yeah. But you can't.
You can't do it.
I mean, what is everyone's Tuesday
I
night?
mean, it doesn't make any difference what night it is to me.
You know, I'm,
Give you an extra day too in the week. You know what I mean? If you have your department head meetings Monday, what you normally do, I mean, it would give you an extra day to
we're gonna
put pen to
adjust.
paper.
No matter what you do, we're gonna adjust, so.
Is that gonna do anything to any of the, like, public hearings or
Right, that's
any
what
of
I'm worried
that?
about. That's
Any of
what-
that
Are
stuff?
the boards that usually regularly meet Tuesday nights?
Right now, the task force has been monopolizing Tuesday nights. There's no reason why they can't adjust either, so.
Whatever I mean, so there's no, the planning board and the appeals board there, and there everybody has regular Tuesday evening meetings at this point.
No.
The
the
only thing
planning
I
board-
would say is maybe, I almost wonder if we should wait till we have the full board here to make that decision to hear Chuck's. I mean, because there may be something that conflicts in his schedule for, I mean, it sounds like everyone's okay with Tuesday night, but I don't know about Chuck.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm perfectly okay, I just wanna get this, I want this whole ball, rolling.
I agree.
No, I think it's a good idea.
And
I'm glad you brought it up.
Can we put it on the agenda for next
Yep.
meeting? And we'll, hopefully we'll have the full board here then and make the decision then. I don't know, how much of a notice would you have to give if you were changing the meetings a month? Can you do
well,
it?
public notice requirement, you only need 7 days, but, so,
But courtesy to allow people to know that you're changing your meeting nights.
yeah, I would say you set it a couple of meetings in advance and then you make a change. Just having the discussion is nice. And I've seen other towns do that, you know, if you have a sister city nearby, you offset your meeting so that you can collaborate more.
I like it. Okay. Here's my public comment, I'm done.
That's it. Okay, reports, Jim.
The first one is the St. Andrews Task Force, and I don't know if you've seen your email yet, and probably not all of you have. The first thing that the task force is working on is they've gotten to a point where they feel like they want to brief the public on everything they've done in the last 7 months. So this is what we've been working on, and here it is for comment, and so that we can get everybody to digest that information. That meeting is scheduled for February 26th at 6:30 at the Boothbay Region Elementary School in the gymnasium. It'll be a large venue, try to answer as many questions as possible. But the agenda is looser than we have done in the past because we want people to be able to participate and ask the off the wall question, the very pointed questions. Let's get everything done so the community feels like this task force that's been working diligently has now debriefed everybody. Before that happens, the task force had mentioned that they want to have a public officials briefing so that the public officials get a more intimate moment to sit with the task force and ask their questions, and they're not competing for floor time with the rest of the public. And since they really have tasked the task force to do everything that they've done to date, it felt like that it was appropriate that they have that time. That will be February 19th at 6:30 here in the Boothbay Town Office. We're trying to coordinate it with in the Boothbay Harbor Town Office. Just thought a new venue would be appropriate, but we weren't able to pull that off, so it'll be here. And you know, that as we put in the email, that is a meeting that's open to public inspection. It's an open public meeting, but we don't anticipate having a public forum part. It's more for the selectmen to ask those questions that they won't have the time for later. There'll be another appropriate time for people to ask public questions. That's all I have on the task force. Any question on that? That email is out there.
Great idea.
Yeah. And you know, it gets everybody up to speed. We've talked about bits and pieces. What's the iVantage report? What's the Navigant report? And unless you're me and you've been knee deep in this since day one, geez, it'd be nice to go over this one more time.
Well, it also gives the town, if they have any questions on the legalities or anything like that, for all the selectmen to sit in one room
Right.
and hash it out.
And I think probably the biggest obstacle to the selectmen that don't attend the task force meetings is they only get bits and pieces of information at bits and pieces of time. So it'd be really nice to just sit and have a briefing of everything that's there and ask the questions and get everything done, especially we're at a position where we can breathe a little bit. We're not knee deep in a specific task. standing board vacancies. I took a little bit of liberty on how I put this on the agenda because I wasn't sure exactly what you guys would do. But we've had some interest in our standing boards. We have 4 people that are interested, well, 3 people that are interested in the planning board, the possible out there that may be interested in the planning board. And then one of those is also interested in either planning or Board of Appeals. So I'm not sure, I would recommend that we give a couple more weeks to try to figure out if we got everybody lined up so that you guys can see who is interested in those boards before you make a decision.
How long's it been in the paper?
2 weeks, you know, it's been 2 weeks up till now. So David Steinmetz is interested in either position, and he's given us a piece of information, and if you guys were gonna look at that, I would give it to you now, but I just got it today. Alex Rio, who's in the audience tonight, is interested in a planning board position. Martin Page is interested in the planning board position, and still one other, and I'd like to just shore those up before we have you actually entertain it. You want to appoint the best people for the positions. But it's nice to have interest.
Is, the board, the current boards now, are they suffering because of the vacancies?
You know, the planning board is only missing one alternate member.
How many do they have total?
They have 5 plus the 2 alternates, so they have 7-member board.
So they're running with 6 right now.
So they're running with 6. And they're able to do that. They have a lot of work. Ideally, you know, you want that fully staffed, but they've been able to pull it off. The Board of Appeals meets much less, but they just recently had an application in which one of the members had to recuse themselves. It left them there 4 people. And if one person was sick, then you would have needed all 3 of them to vote the same way just to get action.
Right.
So the Board of Appeals is more concerning to me than the planning board, but I think we have 2 weeks if you guys
The
are
question
inclined.
that'd be interesting to ask all of the people that put in is, are they interested in just that position, or would they be interested in, say if they didn't get the planning board to go to the Board of Appeals? They may.
I think I've asked that to everybody but Martin.
Either place, it doesn't make it, I'd rather be on the planning board, but I'm open to either one. My first place would be the planning.
And that's what I said to Mr. Steinmetz, is that, you know, because he was interested in either or, I said, well, we have people interested in the planning board, nobody interested in the Board of Appeals. If I could shepherd you one way, I would say, please be on our Board of Appeals. So I would encourage you to wait unless you're inclined to move tonight.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah.
Put it off till next meeting.
Okay. But I am encouraged that we got people that are interested in our boards.
Can we get copies of each person's letter by then, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. The tax foreclosures, as we've discussed the last couple of meetings, those are being reviewed by Sally. We should have that ready for our mandated March deadline of making sure that the tax sale is appropriately posted. So at the next meeting, I'll bring those to you again for one more review before we actually get ready to send out that tax sale notice. We just want to make sure that we take care of all the legal hiccups before we.
Nobody's come forward? Nobody's come forward, that group?
No, and I'll tell you that our clerks in the office go above and beyond the call of duty when it comes to notification. You get the mandated certified letter saying, you know, you're about to go to foreclosure, then you get about 8,000 calls from the office staff just trying to make sure. So I'd be surprised if anybody on this list is still interested. The 2009 CDBG grant status, we met with BioVation and DECD the other day, and I just have to reaffirm that working with BioVation and Karem from BioVation, he's been great. And he has literally no legal obligation to this situation, but sees it as a problem for the community and has sat in on every meeting and been patient and worked with us. We found one situation that administratively might work for us, and we're going back through our paperwork to make sure that there might not be something hidden in the weeds that might make this a little more clear. It was a promising meeting. I'll report more when I know more, but essentially we're just kind of going through all the paperwork. Department,
Try as hard as you may.
yeah, that's. I'll tell you, the DECD was a little disappointed that it was aired out publicly, and I was just like, well, I'm not sure what you want us to tell you. You know, if
If we're gonna spend $100,000 of the taxpayers' money, it isn't gonna be secretly.
That's right.
And that's what I told them. I said, you know, essentially, we're talking about a grant that was approved. Half the board probably wasn't on the board then. We have a new administrator. Biovation is sold. They have a new owner. Geez, we've got to talk about this publicly. So I agree. I wish it wasn't front page newspaper material, but so be it.
It's news,
It is news.
unfortunately.
It's a really good.
Bad news.
But we'll get it figured out. Trust me, not one tax dollar will be wasted on this. If it comes to fruition, we will have vetted it completely. We're spending time on it. Department head reports. We actually didn't have the department head meeting. The storm kind of threw a crick in that, but we did touch base with all the department heads. And the biggest thing that I wanted to report is that, you know, the Public Works put in 250 hours plus on the snowstorm, and we're still out there today, so that's 250 hours plus on top of what they ordinarily work. They really put in a valiant effort during the snowstorm, and if you were out on the roads, which I don't know why you would be, but if you were out on the roads, you found out that they were plowed. They weren't beautiful, because at 3 inches per hour, there's no way to maintain a beautiful road, but they were passable. There were no emergencies that emergency responders couldn't get through. Public Works workers put in a tremendous amount of hours, and I'm really proud of them, and that's the only thing I have to report on the department head.
I gotta say,
Category.
kudos to them.
Oh, absolutely.
The roads were in decent shape considering.
Yeah.
But they quickly got them clear.
No, I give kudos, but I'm curious how the truck fed, because it was their website, the registered website, that showed me that we had an incident over on West Side Road.
Right. At that point in time, the visibility was nothing.
Oh,
So
no, I don't question how it happened, that's not even.
you couldn't see the road. He got stuck in
But is it broke?
No, actually, they've looked at it. I mean, minor repairs. There's a fender that's plastic that's a little bit broken. There's a stair that's metal that we'll fix ourselves. No, actually, everything went well.
Sam wasn't hurt and the truck's repairable.
His
That's
pride
what
was
matters.
hurt.
Yeah. With Sam, I can tell you that he was just upset that it was him. It could have happened to anybody.
Yeah, well, side note, we have a brand new dump truck too that found itself off the shoulder at Back Narrows Road too, so
Right.
nobody came out of this, came under the sky, it's quite all right.
Yeah.
Accidents happen.
You can't, in that type of blizzard conditions, you can't see the road. Sometimes they are guessing where that road is. And if you're off a few feet, then you're in the ditch. Honestly, Sam told me himself that he was probably doing about 5 miles an hour when he got that ditch.
I have no doubt.
Right. So I actually see that as a business as usual kind of mishap. They fixed it with no damage. We're back on the road plowing in a couple of hours.
How are we budget-wise with the Public Works so far this year?
We were on pace to come under budget before the storm.
Yeah.
After the storm, that probably has changed. Those are all overtime hours. That was a really invested storm. But you know, that's why we put those monies in those budget articles. They really did earn their keep. That's all I have for reports.
Okay. Old business would be grid solar project.
So in your packets, you'll see that there is some contract language with Boothbay Microgrid LLC in the town of Boothbay. And when they're talking about Boothbay Microgrid, that's the same project that we've been talking about previously, the grid solar project, providing solar energy to the town through this project. And we have Bill Behrens, who's here tonight from Revision Energy, who is the solar power guru for this part. He can answer questions about the technical aspects of what they're proposing as far as power generation. But, you know, if you have questions about the specifics of the agreement language, then I'm not sure that Bill's the perfect guy for that. We did have Sally go through the draft language, and Sally had some notes that, you know, eventually when the final contract comes before the town, that she will want to look at it again. But in its form right now, we've kind of vetted our concerns. The refuse district looked at this Thursday. If Chuck was here, we'd have two people that could attest to that, because the refuse district is also part of the proposal that we've put forward. And I don't know if you remember the solar array, but they were using refuse district buildings to come up with some of that power generation. How did that go with the refuse district?
The board of directors actually overwhelmingly supported it. They've agreed to enter into a contract once it's approved by the town's lawyer. I mean, because, I mean, we're in the same boat, so to speak.
Right.
I mean, the reality of it is, I mean, I'm kind of wearing two hats again for a minute. It's a low risk, high reward. I mean, you're getting $300,000 worth of equipment. You're buying power cheaper than you would be paying for it like we are now. And then in 10 years' time, you own the equipment and you're creating all that power for free.
The
And
basic,
you don't see a downside of that.
the basic premise here is that the buildings that we put forward, so this is one side of the fire department, the public works garage, and 3 buildings in the refuse district. And obviously you guys aren't making decisions about the refuse district, but that was part of the big project. Will be leased by Grid Solar, Boothbay Microgrid, and then they will sell us our power for 2 cents under what we're buying it right now. So you're immediately saving money. And then 10 years from now, they'll sell us the solar arrays for $1. And that's, so it's a pretty good situation for the town.
I do have one question that I'm sure you can answer. Is
Lights will go out right when we're talking about it.
if the power rates all of a sudden plummet for one reason or another, when it says 2 cents per kilowatt cheaper, is that of the current rate, or is that of whatever the rate is from year to year?
It's whatever the rate is at any given time. So if you get re-rated, if each of those meters gets re-rated on an annual basis or even month to month, then you should notify Boothbay Microgrid that that rate has gone up or down. And then they'll adjust your rate on the solar power to stay 2 cents less than that.
That was one of my board members that wasn't there the other night had asked me to ask you tonight, so.
Yeah. Sally posed the same question, you know. Because, I mean, power rates will change in 10 years. They better
I
change.
mean, some of my questions originally when we met with these folks, was what happens if, when they're putting it on the roof, they make a hole and it leaks, you know, comes down in and ruins shit off or whatever in your garage or your buildings, and they are 100% liable. They carry liability insurance. They own them, and they own all the fault that comes with them for 10 years, as well as the maintenance. Maintenance is about $400 a year on them.
Jim, I should just take a minute to clarify the relationships. Revision Energy, I'll give you these, and I reprinted the pictures, but if you look on the back side of that picture, there's a list that's about a year old of the projects that we've done in the past for towns and municipalities and institutions, organizations, schools, and that kind of thing. Revision Energy is a solar contractor. This is pretty much 100% of what we do day to day. We're a company that has 2 locations in Maine and 1 location in New Hampshire. This area is served, it's actually about midway between 2 of our locations. One is in Liberty, Maine, up in Waldo County, and the other one's down in Portland. But the construction on this project will come mostly out of the Liberty location. That's because a lot of the folks in the Liberty location have sort of family and friendship ties down into this area. But at any rate, we are the solar contractor. We provide the construction services, equipment, maintenance, operations, training, all of those kinds of services to Boothbay Microgrid. Boothbay Microgrid is contracted with Grid Solar, and that's how they receive the payments from the Grid Solar stipulations before the Public Utilities Commission that allows these projects to happen down in the Boothbay area at essentially no cost to the client institutions. So primarily what we do is we're the wrench turners. Our job is to make sure it's done right and that the roofs don't leak. And we've literally put tens of thousands of, I hate to say this, but we literally have put tens of thousands of holes in people's roofs and we haven't had any leaks. So we're confident that we're not going to make leaks in your roofs either. But if we get up there and we say, hey, there's something up here that we don't like, that we're seeing something that could potentially be a leak in the future, we're going to let you know before we proceed that there's something that needs to be fixed. But once we're done, if there's a leak issue, it's ours. We own it. We actually own it for the life of the project because Boothbay Microgrid has contracted with us to provide O&M services to them. So even if that leak happens 5 years from now, it's going to be on us.
Now, the warranty on the solar panels are 25 years?
25 years. Yeah.
So we'll get 15 years worth of use out of them after this 2 cents per kilowatt cheaper. We'll be getting 100% kilowatt cheaper.
And they're expected to operate for 40 years total.
So I mean, you could drastically reduce your energy budget lines. We just got out of budget deliberations, and now we're talking about this could possibly be a way to reduce our energy. I think it's.
So are you looking for a motion tonight too?
I don't need a motion tonight. I do need consensus that that you guys will support this. And if you want to give a motion to give me the authority, I'll bring it back to you guys. Right now, we don't have a final agreement to sign, but I will need your authority in the future to sign that. And unless anything drastically changes, I just want to know that we have some support for that.
I almost think we gotta give you the authority now and be done with it.
Right.
I mean, unless something changes drastically, I mean, right now, it's a win-win. I couldn't, on a side note, I couldn't help notice, but you installed some at the Clink. Did your people stay there when they were installing them? Or?
We put the, I think they have a canopy array on one of their locations that we put on there for them. But no, we didn't stay there.
And we're not talking about the Boothbay Town Office where sometimes you make sacrifices to the beauty of the building that the people publicly support. No, we're talking about, I know the beauty of the refuse district buildings is supported too, but the public works garage and then the back side of the fire department. So most people won't even notice these, but then I know that the YMCA's project is street side on their extension building there. The field house.
Right.
So I mean that will be very public, and I think they're really excited about that.
But they make them look, they're 10 years ago, if you saw a solar panel, everyone kind of went, ugh.
Right.
But now they've come a long way. They really look nice.
If you want, the fire station has the opportunity to put some a little more visible if you want them. And what we're going to plan to do is come down here with a couple of the electricians and map out exactly what the project sizes are. That rendering that you have is done on a Google Earth image with a pencil kind of thing. So we don't know exactly what we can fit on those roof lines, but please speak up if you want some visible on one of those roof lines on the fire station. We should do that.
And, sometimes you're trying to make a statement by your going green effort, but the reducing the amount of green that we're spending is also a go green effort that I like.
That's definitely a good one.
No money out of pocket is a good thing.
Is this for nonprofit only?
This program actually was opened up to everybody on the Boothbay Peninsula. This is a unique program that has never existed before, and it's open to everybody. One of the hotels, Tugboat Restaurant Hotel is doing solar. A couple of private residences around the peninsula are doing solar.
And is that window closed or is there still time to get on it?
It's closed.
I can't believe. Yeah. I'd say we make a motion, we give Jim the authorization to, enter into an agreement if.
Right, that would be blanket enough, and I'll make sure you guys get a copy before it's ever entered into.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
It's exciting. Any more questions for Bill before?
Yeah, I got one quick question.
Sure.
You said that the maintenance would be $400 a year. Is that correct?
That cost though is borne by Boothbay Microgrid.
Yeah, it's not by us.
Yeah, it's not by the town.
Okay.
Yeah.
And once those grids become the town of Boothbay's property,
After year
then
10.
that's on the town of Boothbay's dime?
Right, then they're going to own the equipment, and they can sign the same kind of operations and maintenance contract
Okay.
with us if they want to.
And it's after 10 years when it becomes the town's property?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did the window close just because you filled your need?
No, the whole thing was run by the Public Utilities Commission. So they had a request for proposals back in September, and then they collected offerings at the beginning of December. They had a review process they went through, and they accepted a certain number of proposals from people on the peninsula offering solar projects, backup generator projects, battery projects, off-peak refrigeration and air conditioning projects, those types of things. And so all of those were then reviewed by the PUC, and some of them were approved. Some of them were approved back to Grid Solar, who's now going back to the suppliers like us who said we could do it for them. And we're going back to the individuals, the towns, the YMCA, to make sure that everybody's still in agreement. And then once all those steps go through, there will be an agreement signing and then the project launch, which hopefully is going to be in the next few weeks. Not actual construction. Construction won't start until about April or May.
And the window wasn't open for very long. They had to
Wasn't.
put together these proposals for the PUC relatively quickly, because what they're trying, and if I misrepresent what they're trying to do with the project, is they're trying to create some more generation on the peninsula so that they won't have to pay for an upgrade to transmission lines down here in the near future. So the town was pretty proactive in trying to get Kim to look at our electricity needs. And as a matter of fact, we even talked about AC units. We just weren't what they were looking for. And because we were trying to get cheap and free AC units out of it too.
Did the school get involved?
Not to my knowledge.
I know that when I first talked to Kim, I gave him contact information at the Y, at the school, at the, trying to get him in touch with the people on down here to make those connections. So I know we gave him connections. I don't know, they may have looked at it and it wasn't feasible. It really is kind of a niche. They were looking for roofs that not necessarily face south, but face southwest. So there were some conditions that were special to the project.
Take one more minute, and that is the whole genesis of this project comes from about, 6 or 8 hours on a July or August afternoon, a couple of afternoons in the summertime. When that line coming down, 34,000 volt line coming down the peninsula, begins to see the strain of not just the usage, but also the heat. And the idea is that rather than rebuilding that line and doubling the voltage on that line, by siting generation and load shifting equipment down here on the peninsula, they can avoid that entire cost. And so that's why they were willing to put in, I forget what the number of millions of dollars is, but a certain number of millions of dollars into that, which would be a small fraction of the cost of rebuilding that power line. And if they can prove feasibility over a 3-year period, the expectation is that they will extend that over a 10-year period. And there may be further opportunities after year 3 to expand the program down here. But it's quite unique, and it's a pilot project for the state, I might add. There are several other line extensions around the state grid line extensions that have that same kind of situation in the summertime. So they're looking for peak shaving, air conditioning shifts. Solar works very well because its highest production is right on that hot summer afternoon. So it's a good match for renewables down here.
And I bet there was a concerted effort to look at government and nonprofits because the renewable energy credits come into play. And essentially, a profitable business is going to be interested in those renewable energy credits for the tax write-offs, whereas the towns or the nonprofits are not coming. So it makes the whole project more feasible.
Is it possible to have a surplus of energy?
It's possible, but it won't be done. The system is sized to meet up to the maximum load of the town. So we won't design it to go over the maximum load of the town.
Right. And then, you know, these some of the questions, really good questions that we flushed out. Some people had the perception that, you know, the lights will stay on in public works. Well, it's not the case. We're just feeding energy back into the grid, and we're not going to store any energy.
The town has the benefit of buying the energy at a lower cost as it's produced because it's also available to the grid if it's needed. So.
Thank you for traveling all the way down.
Thank you, Bill.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
What's your last name?
Barron's.
Barron's?
You need to spell it, 'cause I can't.
Okay. New business, zoning ordinance review.
Well, Douglas told me to put this on the agenda. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
But the zoning ordinance review is under, is being done by the planning board currently. And obviously, like we talked about before, and I gave you the great big huge binder, is that administration did quite a bit of effort in trying to set the stage for the planning board. And Douglas went to one of the recent workshops and asked me to put it on the agenda.
Remember we asked about the planning board to look into 96 signs?
Mhm.
They're still not doing it. And this is year and a half. Which, you know, I mean, I think big on land, you know, then, this way, you know, would want.
Has that been addressed though in the zoning ordinance review?
No, they're not gonna.
No, but what I'm getting at is, has it been addressed in the thing that Art put together?
That
They
Art
get
and I
it
put
on
in.
the agenda, but they're not gonna review it, they're not gonna do anything. Not for this year anyway.
Yeah, we did put in our administrative ordinance review, I mean, there's 3 pages of law, local law, about what signs you can and cannot have, but then there's like a paragraph of what are the building standards in the town. So, yeah, I mean, it is weighted. There's a lot of law as pertains to the signs.
I forget how we left it with Bigelow the last email.
We told them we'd look at it this year. That's where we left it.
So can we ask the planning board officially to look at it?
Yeah, we did.
Can.
No, I'm saying
As a board.
we need to ask them.
Well, I thought we did that.
I don't think that, if I remember correctly, that they said that they would get to it this year, if I remember correctly. I may be wrong.
Unfortunately, I wasn't here, I don't know.
that we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah. But if you, can you,
I will, I'll let the planning board know.
what's
that-
their time frame so that we can get it on the warrant for town meeting?
Same,
It's
same
pretty-
as yours.
Which it's gonna have to be
I don't know.
at the top of their list.
It's not gonna happen.
They can make it, they've got a couple of
Well,
months.
then you were gonna have to put pressure on
That's what I.
You may have to go to the meeting.
it, you know.
Yeah, and that's, you know,
When's the next meeting?
their next meeting is Wednesday.
Can you go, Douglas?
Wednesdays.
Can you go representing us and asking them to?
That's right, 'cause you can't.
I can't, I'm gonna be gone, or I would.
Where are you gonna be again? Oh, that's right, Florida.
You betcha, or it's warm.
You'll burn. It's all
I
Wednesday night I'll be in shorts and a t-shirt.
don't know what time I'll be back.
forehead will get all red and peel.
I can be there. So,
Because I don't.
Doesn't matter, man.
I mean, I just think that if one of us was there and just asked,
Yeah.
they would do that.
now, since
Some
we've
reason
given them
They gotta
the,
get me up to speed on signage though about Bigelow, because I have no idea what you're talking about. But other than that, I can certainly go and represent.
Bigelow wanted to put a sign that they thought was representative of the institution that they're building up there.
Right.
And what they what they proposed wouldn't fit within our sign laws last year. And they said, is there anything we can do? And we discussed, whether there could be a contract zone amendment, and the board was like, no, we've kind of done that already, not a contract zone amendment.
Right.
But then we proposed, could there just be a general change to sign laws, because sign laws are a little prohibitive to business and they don't make a lot of sense. The one that applied to them is that their setback would have to be so far that it would be up their road, and what's the sense of having a sign all the way up
Nobody's
the
gonna
road?
see it.
So we did tell them that we would entertain it throughout the year and we'd look at it. And we have not gotten back to them, although I've told Dr. Shamil, since we've met a couple of times in opening ceremonies, that we still intended on looking at it.
Well, so the one problem is, I don't think anybody really knows what the width of that road is going down through there. So they're trying to say, way back where the boundary is, when you go there, it's quite wide. But I think going down through that village and stuff, there's a lot narrow than what they're saying now. So that's what they're supposed to be looking at.
And the heart of the law, why is it, what we wanted the planning board to look at is, why is the law written the way it is? If Bigelow Labs could build their sign at 40 feet from setback from the road, that was okay with them. But legally they couldn't, because our law prohibited that. But 50 feet would be okay. And we were trying to get around the fact of, why is the law written that way? And is there anything that if it doesn't make sense, let's adjust it.
Right.
And I don't think we've made the determination of whether it makes sense or does not make sense yet.
The size of the sign too?
There is sign limitations, but Bigelow says they're okay with the size.
With the 32 or whatever.
32 square feet.
So we told them what the size limitations were, and they said, okay, we can build a sign like that, as long as we can, 50 feet just puts it at their drainage
Right.
ditch, and then they obviously can't put it there, so they have to put it behind it, they can't put it closer. So, one starts to think, well, why is it 50 feet? Well, I don't know the answer.
I think we need to.
It was a good number somebody came up with many years ago.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why we continually look at these zoning
You can
ordinances.
drive down through there, you can see the pins right there beside the
Well,
sign.
I think it was
It's
originally,
property line, so you know that road isn't that wide.
well, I think originally they just assumed as a state road, it was a typical 100-foot right of way.
Yeah, but if you do- if you
50
go-
feet either side.
If you go 50 foot either side, going down through that village,
You're taking houses.
you're taking houses.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's what the point he's making.
East Boothbay store,
Yeah.
there wouldn't be a store left.
I talked to the DOT guy when they were repaving Route 27. He said to me, he said, we don't care how far it's set back as long as it's not a deadly fixed object. He said, you drill holes in the bottom of the wooden post so it breaks off and somebody hits it, we're good with that. In fact, we've actually made that amendment elsewhere. I said, well, how come I have a 50-foot setback to my sign? To which his reply was, I don't know, it's not Route 1. I said, well, it's Route 27. He goes, I know, that's why I'm here paving it. But he goes, we would have made that suggestion. Possibly you thought we would have wanted that suggestion, and that's how it became ordinance.
It's a locally imposed law, it's not,
Yeah.
the state didn't
Yeah, I know,
impose it.
that's why.
So we'll ask
So
them.
the assumption was.
See, that's why
it's
they're
a state
supposed to be
road, so
looking into it,
100
so we can see what we can do for people over there.
And,
Or anybody on Route 27.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think we need to be supportive. I mean, I don't think we should change zoning ordinances every time somebody has an issue with them.
Well, I
But,
don't either, but I think we ought to create one that makes sense, that works for everybody.
right, and then, now, the planning board's concern a year ago was that, that we were looking at this because it was Bigelow. Now, honestly, okay, a little bit, yes, we were looking at it in Bigelow because we want to support the institution that they're building and the sizable amount of job increase that they're gonna put in our peninsula in the near future, yes. But also that we don't understand the fundamental why is the law. So we just wanted to get to the root of that.
And Bigelow, just to be clear too, Bigelow's not the only sign issue I've ever heard in this town. I've heard a lot of problems of sign issues in Boothbay, so let's try to correct some of them. If Bigelow's the big fish that's gonna get the ball moving, well,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
And that's how law is usually reviewed. Somebody says, why does, I don't understand why this makes, that's how it happens on a federal level, on a state level. There's no reason why we can't review it on a local level.
It was last year at about this time that we had this discussion before. It was actually a little later, I think, if I remember.
And then we ran out of time.
Right.
Yeah.
So now would be a great time to ask the planning board to put that at the front of the list.
Yeah, yes. And yes.
Stevie, I think I can remember a little bit years ago, some of it was the issue with the canopy up to the AG place. Dave's AG came to play into it. And Texaco out here was another one that came to play into it. Because they was grandfathered as long as they was out in there,
Mhm.
but they didn't want anybody else that close. They was afraid, even like up to, which is Ronnie Sparkle's Motel, that was grandfathered.
But again,
People wanted to change it, they can't change it.
but again, you're talking fixed objects versus a sign that can be moved within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But
I
yes,
think that's what they was thinking of, and they didn't realize, you know, hey, well, you couldn't make it fall back.
mhm.
And then the White Anchor is also dealing with a sign ordinance related issue where they can't actually repair their sign because they would have to repair more than 50% of it, and in order to do that, it puts them back, and their setback is near the hotel. I mean, they would have to put their sign in the hotel.
Well, Lisa's lunchbox at one time was told she had to leave Hungry Dan's sign there because she couldn't touch it, repair it, or change it. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense to me.
It means some of the sign ordinances should be reviewed.
Exactly. So hopefully
Well, you
that's
did
what
look
will
at
come
it,
out of
right?
it.
What's that?
You looked at the sign ordinance for Mark, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. I mean, they're in our notes. They're in our notes that we gave to the planning board. Certainly think that that's a place that there a lot of improvement can be made.
Comprehensive Planning Committee resignation. I see we have a letter of resignation.
Yeah, Jennifer Smith is resigning from her spot on the comprehensive planning committee.
At this point, is there a reason to replace? I mean, you're quite a ways along now. I mean,
I think so. I really do. The comprehensive planning committee could spin into multi-years of planning. Hopefully it does. You know, I'm not saying that I don't think that they'll be prepared for a May next year town meeting of the comprehensive plan, but they're doing some good work.
do you have anybody that's interested?
No, but I really do have some people that are interested in planning positions in the town that might be interested. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but
Maybe advertise for a week in the paper.
I think that's what we should
Bring it
do.
back to us next month.
So you accept the resignation, I'll just
Yeah.
post it. And,
Accept it with regrets.
right.
Is that a motion? Do you have to make a motion for that?
It is an appointed position, yes.
Okay, so is that a motion?
Yes.
Seconded.
More discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Budget FY 2014 budget process.
Well, we put BRC TV through a lot of patience testing to get to this point. I'm sorry, we had a lot of things that we had to get done. But we've invited BRC TV here to talk to us about their request for funding in our budget. So that's what I propose we move on to next. So would you guys like to talk to us about what you put forward?
Let me hand out some.
So,
Thank you.
the actual reason why we wanted you here instead of just giving you a free pass is because there's an increase. Why?
Oh.
I'll get the elephant right off, the elephant in the room.
Do you want to talk about the elephant?
Yeah.
You want me to just
Why
go
is
ahead
there-
with what I was gonna say?
Yeah, why is there an increase?
Okay, why don't I just talk through what the material that I've given you here, the highlights for the year. I mean, everybody knows what we do, but the highlights of the year were these 6 items that are listed on the second sheet that I gave to you. And the first 2 are the Great State Debate and St. Andrews Task Force coverage. Those to me fall into a category of being right at the heart of the value that we provide, which is the public service, covering these 2 important events. And for a lot of people in the region, they have no other knowledge of what the candidates for the state legislature have to say as campaign kind of conversation that they may have, other than to watch it on BRC TV, either on the cable or on over the computer internet. So that's right at the heart of what we do. The third one down is cross-country championship. That sounds like, okay, so it's another sport. But the fact of the matter is that this is a sport is just as important to some people as basketball or football is. And it really required us to, the way we did it was a different way than we normally do. We had better equipment. The equipment was several smallish cameras that we placed around on the course so you can actually see the progress of the cross-country meet. So it was an advance for us in terms of the technology, the way that we would cover something like this. The third and fourth items have to do with our the way that we interact with the youth of the region. John does a Y Camp summer video program in which he teaches the kids who are at the Y Camp, if they choose to take his course, he actually puts them through their paces and they produce videos and have a lot of fun doing it, and they learn something in the process. We also had I think it's either the 3rd or the 4th annual high school video festival where the high school kids who wanted to participate in this produced 5-minute videos, and they showed them at the Harbor Theater. Quite a big deal for people interested in video and television production, that kind of thing. Probably the biggest thing that happened during the year is that our studio is finally starting to shape up. It's starting to look like something. We, prior to last year, what we had for a studio was really just like a large-sized closet on the 2nd floor of the Y. When the pool was built, more area came to us, but it took us a while to be able to turn that into any kind of a functional area. It took money and time to do that. We're finally at the point now it's looking pretty good, looking very good. It's a space that will allow us to do things that we haven't been able to do in the past. We'll be doing programming out of that space. It looks good, and it's a space that's big enough to do the kinds of things that we want to do. So it's something that's projecting us into the future. I wanted to just basically reflect on the bottom here of the history of town disbursements over the last 5 years. You can see that in 2008, well, you can see what the chart is showing here, but basically over the course of 5 years, the amount of money that we're getting in disbursements from towns has increased. In the case of Boothbay Harbor, it's gone from $17,000 a year up to $28,000 last year, 2012. And you can see the percentage increases year to year for the last 3 years. In the case of Boothbay was giving us $11,000 in 2008. And in 2010, we asked for more than that. And the selectmen indicated to us that rather than trying to give us all that we wanted at that point, it would be good if we could sort of incrementally move towards the kind of request that we're making. So this year we're requesting $20,000, which is an 11% increase over $18,000 of the previous year. I wanted to just sort of reflect on other things that have happened. We've managed to sign up 4 new board members. We were down to just a handful of board members. We've increased that by adding Ryan Layton, Ed Crocker, Bill Harvey, and Paul Demers. From a financial standpoint, we made something on the order of income of like 56,000 and change. And towards the end of the year, we could see that we were going to be able to stay within that 56,000 for our expenses, but we decided that we do need to keep up with technology, so we bought some cameras. We bought 2 cameras, and we bought a couple of computers. So now we're up to 4 computer stations for editing, and all of our cameras are the smallish cameras, that size camera, and a smaller camera, which is called a GoPro camera. And that makes us all digital, so that now we don't have any cameras, any large cameras that have wheels turning in them. There's no wheels turning. This is all digital, makes the quality better. So what I'm saying, in essence, through all of this, is that we're continuing to provide service to the region. It's valuable. We're without a ton of money, managing to keep up with the technology. And for that reason, I think that we deserve your consideration in giving us the 20,000 that we're asking for. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does Boothbay Harbor give you 100% of the cable franchise donation that
Yes.
Time Warner?
Yes, that's Boothbay Harbor. That their policy is that they will just pass through what Time Warner gives to them in terms of franchise fees. They will just pass those on to us. And they've done that for the last 2 years. This isn't something that's mandated, of course. You don't have to do that. A town doesn't have to do that. A town can use the funds however they want to use them. In the case of Boothbay Harbor, they feel as though that money should come to us, and so they give it all to us.
And that was a change 2 years ago?
It happened actually in the meeting that we had with them, I think it was 3 years ago. At that point, they were giving us an amount less than what Time Warner was giving to them. We went and gave them a presentation, and a couple of women on their planning board asked the question of why don't they get it all? Why don't they get all of what Time Warner gives to them? Gives to the town, and the question really. It was a good question, because from that point on, they decided that they would give us everything. They give it to us in 2 increments. They don't know what they're going to get until the year is quite long, not until October or November are they going to know how much more are they getting this year than they got last year. So they give us what they gave us last year until we reach the end of the year, and then they give us another little dollop to add on to what they got from Time Warner. So they're giving us everything that they get.
I guess that begs the question, do we?
No.
No.
So these figures are correct, they actually gave you $28,462 last year?
Yes. That's what they gave us last year.
No, we get about $25,000 in franchise fees. Or at least that's what we got last year.
Yeah, last year, I remember last year.
In the case of Southport doesn't get franchise fees because they didn't put that into their contract. That contract, in a couple of years, 2-3 years, are going to be coming up again for contract consideration, but right now, nothing can change with this. They just don't get any franchise fees.
My question is, if we was to give you the franchise fees, does that pretty much guarantee that we'll never see an increase from you folks again? Because, I mean, the only reason why I asked that is in the last 5 years, it's doubled from what you've asked for in the past. And I mean, what's to say if we give you the franchise fees this year, is that going to be enough 2 years down the line?
Well, I can say that it's doubled, but that's coming off of like zero, coming off
Coming
of
from
rock
11,000 to
bottom.
20.
I mean, you were giving us 11,000 when in fact you were getting something on the order of 20,000.
Right.
So, we asked if we couldn't bump that up, let's get closer at least to what Time Warner.
But what I'm getting at is, I mean, when you see numbers that, I don't care how you look at it, when you see these numbers, townspeople, and when I say you, I mean townspeople, I'm sorry. But if you showed that history in a town report, the chances are it wouldn't pass. With a 36%, a 20%, an 11% increase, that's huge. That's what I'm getting at, you know what I mean? So
Yes, but in absolute numbers, I mean, I wanted to show those percentages, just to have you compare your percentage increases to, for instance, Boothbay Harbor's percentage increases. But it really is a story of absolute numbers. It's the concept of receiving money from Time Warner Cable for the use, it's franchise fees, which are basically rental payments that they're paying the town for the use of the roadways where they put their cable up.
Yeah, I know.
So the question really is, what expense or what purpose should this money be put to? And I guess what we would say is,
maintain the roads, maybe?
no, I think it should be,
I'm
Yes.
trying to be the devil's advocate, I'm not,
Obviously.
I think you guys do wonderful.
Answer to your question in the
Yep.
sense that Boothbay Harbor deemed it worthy to give the full franchise
Yeah.
fee amount pass through.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't change. They give us an amount and whatever it is, they give it to us. If you were to do the same thing, it would be the franchise fees, it would be passed through to us. You wouldn't see the percentage increase. And if you remember, it was like 2 or 3 years ago that we originally looked to do this. And you didn't want to increase it because it was $11,000, way up to the 20-something that the town was getting for franchise fees. So now the difference isn't as much.
Well, a couple of years ago, when you guys had requested, I believe, 18, that was in
Right.
2010.
Right.
You requested 18, and we said, no, we'll give, rather than give it all to you at once,
Right.
we went 15
Right.
to 18.
yes.
That was the number we were shooting for then.
Exactly.
And now it's 20.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not,
What is the end?
don't consider me adversarial by no means, because I think Channel 7 does great. But we answer to not just people, there's a lot of people with DirecTV. And the thing that I hear all the time, and I understand you're online, but a lot of people don't go on, I do. Personally, I go on and watch your St. Andrews Task Force meetings, and I watch the Harbor Selectmen's meetings quite often. I'm not saying that, but the people that have DirecTV, a lot of them don't go on here, so why should they pay
They
for
don't
something
pay.
they're not?
Well,
Well, they are, technically, if we give you the
Time
full,
Warner
right,
is
but if we
paying
give
and you're
I
giving that money
agree,
to
but
do
if
it.
I give you the full $25,000, that's $5,000, $7,000 technically, out of the town's budget, that, I mean, right now currently goes into that town budget. That's what I'm making the argument for. Now, I'm not against giving you the franchise fees, I'm not saying that at all, I'm trying to play the devil's advocate,
Right.
that's all.
I don't think that we should think in terms of BRCTV as being an organization that provides programming over the cable. Basically, what we is a regional resource. We are providing promotional resources to the schools, to the civic organizations, to the governments of the region. It's a valuable service,
I don't
and
disagree.
everybody in the region benefits from it.
Exactly. We don't ask them for their Time Warner membership when they show up to do something.
I don't disagree with that, but our Public Works Department is also a valuable resource. We're looking at cutting staffing to save money. So how do we look them straight in the face and say, we're gonna cut a member, but we're gonna allow if we gave the whole 25 grand,
Well-
I guess is what it is, you're looking at another 30% increase. That doesn't pass the straight face test.
Well, it
You
does.
see what I
in a
mean?
It
sense-
does when you're being given that money by Time
Yeah,
Warner.
but you know,
But-
before,
But it's not given, it's rent.
yeah, but you know, before we, start giving them a lot of money, we gotta do something about that audio in this building here, because people are complaining that they can't hear us, especially on this end here, they can't hear us talking. So we should.
That's not necessarily a
Yeah,
bad
but we should
thing.
take some of this money and put an audio system in here.
You can stipulate any amount you want to go with the audio meters.
Well, you know,
Now, that being said, I'm not against giving you the franchise fees, I'm not. I wanna make that clear. I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate to hear your response.
Well, you know, my thought is, I don't understand why we ask these folks to come in. If we're budget-minded, give them the $2,000 increase and shut up. Now we're gonna be guilted into giving them the whole $25,000.
Not
Because we've
necessarily.
asked them to come in to say, why did they want more money?
No, we're not gonna give them $25,000.
You know what, I'm with Douglas. I'd be more than happy to put that money into an audio system, because it will benefit our
You
community,
can
no
always
doubt.
stipulate that in the amount you give, definitely.
I mean, we've talked about this now for
Yeah,
2
right,
years.
yeah, right, we've been talking about it, I was wrong in that, but I'm getting the complaints all the time about it.
I mean, that being said, I don't wanna make it sound like I'm belittling the work you guys do. I think you do wonderful. I do.
No, but we're also doing it on a pauper's wage, basically. We don't have much money, and we don't have great ways of making a lot of money.
My biggest concern is my original question of, if we was to hand over all franchise fees, and even if it isn't this year, if we say this year we're gonna take the money and put audio in, but then future years we did do that.
I don't think we
Do
would
we
be
have-
looking for more money in any year than what you get in franchise fees. That would be the cap on what we were asking in any year. And in the case of Boothbay Harbor, you don't always know, we don't know what to ask, we wouldn't know what to ask for instance, until you knew how much money you were gonna get. So we would have to just say that, so our request for money would be a pass-through of the Time Warner
Where does that money
franchise
go right
fee.
now?
It goes into our revenues, it goes into our general fund. We have a revenue earmark, so we know exactly what that is. But where some towns that don't wanna do this lead and lag of, geez, what are we gonna get for revenues, or franchise fees, you can structure a question that says, you know, to donate all franchise fees to BRC TV, and then whatever that check comes in, that's what gets donated. You see it a lot of times in western or northern Maine towns that'll do that with snowmobile excise taxes, go directly to the snowmobile club. So, I mean, there's ways around that are less clunky than just having that lead and lag.
Who would be responsible for the audio in here? Would that be us, or would that be?
Well, I think it's a good question that somebody brought up a couple of weeks ago. If you're toying with the idea of $2,000 more going to BRC TV, I could tell you that, you know, $2,000 that we invest in audio or video here that we own, that also makes our transmission that goes to BRC TV better, is a good investment too. I mean, you see how John has to set up when he comes in here. It would be really nice if he could just plug in, you know, and then that would be something that would be a benefit to your taxpayers.
Something
too,
that
in the
you
long
could be
run.
using even if you're not televised.
Right.
You'd have a
Right.
I mean,
microphone
Could
that
you
let
almost
you use it.
put your camera up there and have it on remote?
Whose audio equipment is it?
that's BRC TV.
Would that not work, John?
Remote camera?
Yeah.
Well, you see why I'm positioned down here, so I can get you and the people
Right.
talking.
You
So
gotta
it's-
keep them all back.
Right, I see.
You don't need one there and one here.
Yeah, if you had two, then maybe you could go back and forth.
The technology is not super prohibitive to look into having two cameras that are toggling, and whoever's speaking, the mic picks it up and that camera turns on. It's not too expensive, and one of the things that we took into mind when we were considering the server room move is that enough room, so if we ever do want to do anything with AV, we can, because think about all the time and effort that we put into recording secretaries and stuff like that. If we had a good recording system, sometimes we can take care of that. I mean, this last year we hired somebody to do an audio video recording the Stimson appeal, because that was in the best interest of the town to have that recorded. you know, if we had that infrastructure on, we wouldn't have to pay for it.
John, could you get a system where every public hearing was recorded, hardwired to some type of server or something in the back room, that every public hearing could be accessible here and burnable onto a disk?
They can do that, you can do that, you know, if you wanna do that with multiple cameras and a hard disk recording system, you know, you could do that. It would
You'd more want-
cost you some money.
Yeah, you'd want more audio than you would so much video
The
probably.
bridge.
The audio is the big,
Yeah, the audio is the biggest incentive, but I'm just saying, the task force discs that you made for the public, aren't they available here at the town office?
Right.
Have people been coming in and taking them out, or have you been gauging how much interest has been on how much
Give
it's
them to
started?
the task force, and they load them out to people, so I don't really keep track of how that happens.
Right, I don't actually either. Volunteers are kind of spearheading that.
I mean, that goes a little bit into the Time Warner thing, everything's available, we don't ask people if they're Time Warner member to get a DVD.
well, that goes back to the whole discussion when we was discussing the new agreement with Time Warner long ago about the ability to take out a grant, so to speak, for you folks to be able to upgrade if you wanted to buy all brand new cameras. And the whole community that's watching it would pay that. That makes so much more sense to me when you need new equipment and stuff. And that way, it's not just the town of Boothbay Harbor paying the 28,000 and us paying a meager, let's say if we was paying 11, I mean, we pay more than that, but you know what I mean?
Well,
That
if
would
you
be
gave
spread
us-
out even.
If you gave us the franchise fees, you passed them through it, that's essentially what it would be. It would be the Time Warner gives the money to the town automatically passes it to us, and then there's a different conversation that takes place. It's a conversation of how much of the money that we get from Time Warner franchise fees would go into some kind of a program, some kind of an audio system here that served not only the purposes of putting it on TV and the internet, but also just for any kind of meeting that you had here. Be just better sound.
I think before we decide the amount, I'd like to know what it would cost to wire this place.
And because of where we've strategically put our server room, it would, I don't think it would be too hard.
Could you,
I can work
within the
on it.
next couple of weeks, work with John? Because I mean, he would know what he would need and what you would know what you would need, and come up with something. Because I mean, we've been kicking this around for a long time.
We could have saved a lot of time just by telling them we give them what they asked for. None
Not necessarily, because we wouldn't get this done.
Yeah.
We need, I mean, I've heard it from several people. I mean, I agree with Doug. People say all the time, I mean, they hear me unfortunately, because I'm right next to the mic, but you guys down there, they don't.
Right.
I mean, the reason why we entertain even giving the entirety of your franchise fees or increases in budget appropriations is because there's a benefit to the government body, that we can inform the people that are out there that make voting decisions about the things that we want to do are informed because they watch our meeting. If we can make them better informed by giving them a better quality, and I'm not saying that you have to donate that money to BRC-TV. Maybe that money is invested here that then has a significant impact to what they're providing. Because essentially, if we record, let's just say we had AV in here and it was just a matter of turning on a switch, and I don't know how that's done, but we would give that digital file to BRC-TV because it's in our best interest to have them broadcasting it. So then you might get away from the fact of having John having to sit here every other Monday, and that really ends up in the long run being a contribution to BRC-TV that they'd love to probably have in every town office. I don't want you here. I mean, so,
I got that part.
yeah.
And all this extra money
So-
payable.
Side question, franchise fees, this gets negotiated every,
No, since '85. It's the same.
We-
Hasn't changed, yeah.
When they negotiated the franchise fees in Boothbay decades ago, they put in a clause that it just continues on. So the agreement has passed its term a long time ago, but because of that clause, they continue to pay the franchise fees.
okay, but does that franchise fee, does it have like a percent increase?
It's 3%. It's 3% of all of the charges for Time
Yeah.
Warner services.
Hey Jim, what was the name of the company that we signed the agreement with?
So what agreement with?
the original
The original
cable
franchise.
agreement. I'm gonna test your knowledge, because I don't know who it is, it's way, way
I
back.
can't remember, it was
They've
quite a
sold
few
several times.
cable
Frontier,
owners
I
ago.
think.
Something
Frontier,
Zoom,
wasn't it?
Cable Vision or something.
Yeah, I think it's Cablevision, actually,
I think it's Cable Vision.
in the eighties.
Yeah, it was quite a few owners ago. So when they sell that company, like Time Warner has bought it, they buy the franchise agreement and they honor it, and that's the only reason why we have that is because a few decades ago, somebody negotiated a pretty good agreement.
So can you look into?
What do we think the cost would be of AV upgrades? Sure.
I think it's some wicked benefits though. I mean, you think planning board, if it is a matter of just hitting a switch, planning board meetings can be done. Not saying we need to air every last one of them, but if there's a hot topic and people wanna see it, John would have access to just be able to come here and pick up a disc or.
It'll make them available, I mean, you never know what's hot for one person, it's not for another.
True, absolutely, but you could literally burn a disc for somebody if they wanted. Hey, could I have the, right, could I have the
Not
February
for
11th
zeros and ones.
meeting?
Some towns are live streaming their meetings. I don't know the cost there, but I mean, there's the technologies available.
Are you thinking that you would have a camera that basically took in the entire room?
I
I
think.
mean, that's the reason why, what John was saying, I mean, the idea that you can move from there to there to there, and you can get right in on the person that's talking is a valuable part of the whole thing, I think.
I
To
agree.
have a single camera or to try to do that, I mean, I don't know if that's
I don't think
realistic,
they're talking about.
but certainly the sound.
I'd say start with audio,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing right now.
Right,
Just to see what audio is.
right.
Why is it different than the hardware? The hardware has a mic at every desk. I mean, what's so hard about that?
Just not something we haven't invested in the past.
We've had them in the past, we've had them in the past up here, and he said there was a lot of paper noise.
We'll go down and see Russell tomorrow, probably for $100 get you mics.
Are those mics from Boothbay Harbor directly connected to your camera?
Boothbay Harbor setup has a mixer, has the 5 mics.
You
And Bill
used to-
shows up early to set them all up. So
Does
they are
Russell
owned
own
by
them?
BRCTV and he sets them up every time.
Okay, because you used to set those up.
So what you're saying is because you come late, you don't have time to set them up.
No, there are many reasons for why we.
No, because
did
the
it
hardware
your
gets the
way.
whole franchise fee. That's what.
That's the reason.
But I remember we had the triangle things at one time.
Yeah.
A couple of them.
When Tam Green was covering you for a while, she had some mics that she set up and
She had
she had
three
issues with them
Three little
and,
things with the green light on, because
yeah.
you could put your finger on them and turn them off.
There's so many different choices in technology. We could go wireless, which might be beneficial.
Whose equipment is that in the harbor?
It's BRCTVs.
So if you guys switched your nights, they could do it
That's
here.
possible, but it's,
Do the talking about.
But I'd like to take it a little step further and be able to record them for our own benefit as well. I mean, if we're gonna spend money in audio, I think we'd never have to hire a recorder again. Hope we never have to anyways.
Well, see,
But
they're gonna save money if we switch nights, because they won't have to have 2 cameramen on the same night. You know what I'm saying?
that would be a great benefit to us.
That's just because of the whole franchise fee.
So as a donation to BRCTV, let's switch nights.
that ought to be worth $7,000.
That's
Now we're getting down.
$750, I believe. Sorry, quick calculation.
So if you can get with him and come up with something, that would be great.
Yeah, certainly. We can start working on something.
There are companies that
I'll
do
go
this,
radio
of
shack.
course. The town hall in Southport has a nice system that was put in. There's a
Yeah.
company that we asked to come in, and he takes a look at it, and he looks at all the acoustics and everything, and everything, and he designed this system where he's got this, it's like a cabinet that's got all the equipment in it, and you've got buttons on the side, and it's got wireless microphones. It's supposed to be easy for anybody to use this. You just turn it on, put it to the microphone you're talking about, put the level of the audio level, and it's the speakers are all placed perfectly and everything. So there are people who do this, and if you're going to do it, you should probably be thinking like that. You'd have somebody who's a real acoustics expert, so that when you did it.
What did that cost Southport to do that?
It didn't cost them anything.
Well, how much
Probably
do you think it
done.
would cost? It costs something like 13,000, I think, for town hall to have that. So all of the things that they do there, all of the functions they do, they use
You
these
shouldn't be
these,
suggesting stuff like that. 25 minus 13,000, now you're down to 12.
See, Steve, you've been saving all of that franchise money we've been keeping from them. You know, you could have used that.
But that didn't have anything to do with BRC-TV. That was another source of money.
One last benefit of doing audio, you would have every single word discussed at every meeting verbatim on tape, or
I
position
agree.
in meeting minutes.
I agree.
So
I
then
think it'd be
when you're
great.
misquoted.
When you're misquoted, yeah.
I think it'd be great. I do.
That
I
worked
think
out great for Nixon.
We're all scratching actually.
Plus you wouldn't have to pay me anymore.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, but we love your smiling face.
We'll bring it back anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. No more questions, Jason. We beat the dead horse.
Can you come back the next meeting?
So how are we leaving this, I guess?
We haven't, I mean, we're just listening to the budget stuff now. We're not approving anything on the line.
We're not proving it.
Right.
Nothing.
Not yet.
So-
We haven't any of them yet.
Yeah.
That's the way we do Jim sets the process up. Don't blame the messenger.
Why is that?
You try to get a consensus about budget items, and as we learn more and more information, we finish the items, and then we bring it back as a warrant process. So I will bring back most of the questions at the next meeting and show the selectmen, this is how we've drafted the question, do you want it any different? And then that's the time when we start yaying and naying. But, you know, if AV infrastructure investment is something that impacts us, then we should look into it.
Yes, I agree. Is that it for budget stuff? Besides?
Let me see. We met with the ambulance, we got the cemetery district annual audit, refuse district, BRCTV. Yeah, next meeting we'll get into revenues. And we're well on pace to finish on time. Those 2 workshops that we did were, I think, fruitful. Probably plan on doing them next.
Could we
next
do
year.
a couple year history of revenues from Time Warner franchise fees?
Yeah, absolutely, except for sometimes it gets a little tricky. The way administration recorded the revenues in the past, they're in different spots.
If you
So
give us the last year or two, that would just be handy.
I might have to do a little bit of legwork. to
Whatever
figure
you
it
come up with. I think it'd be helpful. Public comment?
out. I just
We're
want.
kind of doing it as we're going along.
Yeah.
I know the way it is in our, that's good.
Yeah,
Well,
just
on the comp plan, we were talking about how to get people to sign up to fill out those surveys. And so nothing's better than a little bribery. I've got 10 Bob Marley tickets to the high school performance, 10 for each town that I'll give you guys if you want to give those away as an incentive for people to fill out the survey for the comprehensive town committee, for the comprehensive plans.
I'm not sure we have our survey ready, but we can put it together
Well,
pretty
I
darn
can't do
fast.
anything for you, okay?
Pretty darn fast to be in office stuff like that.
Can't drive either, can you, Brian?
Uh,
No comment. I hope, well, geez, I sit right next to this mic. You'll have to play it back.
No, I have DirecTV, so
Go online.
I'm one of those people.
I have one last thing that I'd like to comment on in the public is I can't stress how well Public Works performed in this last weekend. They really were stretched. They put in tons of hours. You didn't hear one complaint. And I tell you, I was probably fretting the storm way more than Public Works was. And if Mike came in here and told you guys what his biggest concern was, is just how he's going to deal with Jim was probably his biggest concern. I was always asking him, you know, what's going on. Well under control. We have a really good crew, and you know they could probably deal with 24 more inches today if they had to.
You don't want them.
They don't want to, but they. Well, actually, I don't know. Some of them are some overtime pigs, but,
Nice choice of word.
yeah.
I think they deserve kudos.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to review the warrants and sign them upon review.
So moved.
All in favor? Forgot what we were gonna say.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All in favor?